How's it going, everyone? It's Classy again, and here we have the LG G1 65-inch on the left and the Samsung QN90A 65-inch on the right. This is LG's best 4K OLED and Samsung's best 4K QLED. So just real quick, showing off their menu systems and their built-in apps and whatnot. Apologies for the shakiness of the camera. I had to do this holding the camera while messing with the remotes and everything because there's no way to fit the tripod and have both of them in frame all the way. It's just too wide for the room that I have. So the LG menu system is kind of clunky, kind of slow. However, there is a new update that's in its way of being given out. Some people have the beta already and say that has been addressed, so I can't comment on that yet. The Samsung menu is very fast, very fluid. The only thing that I'm not a fan of is that as you go left, then more stuff pops up, so then you have to keep going more left to get to the settings. And then I also don't like that there's not a picture mode for game mode, that it's, menu within a menu within a menu. So you have to go to like general, go to external device manager, go to game mode, and then there's your stuff. Like, that's just too many steps, I think. So I wish they would redesign at least getting to, game mode and getting to your picture settings a bit. When it comes to the app layout for both, it doesn't bother me personally because I'm always going to use an external device. But I don't think too many people are very happy with the current implementation that LG has, because it takes up the entire screen. You can't stay on your source. You have to go, hit the home button and go to a different screen in order to see all your stuff, whereas the Samsung has the pop-up, and again, it's pretty quick. So when it comes to devices and sources, however, the Samsung only has one HDMI 2.1 port, and it does support VRR and ALLM and all of that, but the LG has four HDMI 2.1 ports. The Samsung, the eARC port is port 3, so you don't have to worry about that taking up an HDMI 2.1 like you do on Sony. When it comes to CEC and communication with other devices and whatnot, I will say that the LG seems to work better in that department. I've had a few hiccups or instances where the Samsung was on what I wanted, and then the screen would go black, and then it would try to handshake again and then get back to where I wanted, or sometimes it would take a while for it to determine that the Xbox was on and then start showing it as an Xbox instead of just a random device, and just other things along those lines. The Samsung comes out of the box with a game bar. You just hold the play pause button for a couple seconds and it'll pop up, and it shows you frame rate, what kind of VRR mode the TV's in, and so on. LG's new update that's circulating and coming about has a new game menu system that's similar to that, just a little more gamery looking. And so aside from this Battlefield trailer, the rest of this video is not going to have any gaming in it. I'm going to save that for a part 2 follow-up, just because there's pros and cons that I want to highlight for both of them. And I didn't want this video to run too terribly long, but I did want to show quite a bit of varied content, movie and TV content for this one. So if you like this comparison, just a reminder that if you press the like button, it will help other people to see this video more. And also check the description for some affiliate links if you want to support the channel in any kind of way. If you're going to buy anything from Amazon in the next day or so, you can just follow any of those links, and anything you buy will help me out. So with that all out of the way, here's about 10 to 15 minutes of TV and movie content on the LG G1 and the Samsung QN90A. This is a scene from the new Netflix show Sweet Tooth in episode 7, and I wanted to highlight this just to show that even though the QN90A is a much brighter TV, being able to measure upwards of about 1900 nits in HDR, when it comes to itty-bitty tiny little highlights, like all these little lights on the roof of this bar, that's where you're going to see the G1 actually be brighter. It seems like the QN90A with dark scenes like this has a really hard time getting those HDR highlights pushed very bright. But what I'm going to do is get up and get closer to the TVs. I'll have to adjust the camera as I do this and show you what I'm talking about here. Not only are the lights brighter, but they're much more defined on the OLED because each pixel can turn on and off, whereas with the mini LED on the QLED, we're still talking thousands of pixels that have to light up for just one little thing. So you can just see that's the blooming with little highlights. And shoot, that's one thing is the LG likes to go to its screensaver very quickly. That might mess this up. Hold on. Alright, I moved the frame a little bit, but it should be alright. Alright, so now here, you can just see how sharp each one of those little lights look. You also have, the true blacks. Now I'm going to have to adjust the camera real quick to show you the shadow detail that I'm actually seeing. If my camera is willing to pick it up. Because it's not as dark in the dark areas as what the camera is showing. That's why I need a new camera. Let's see. Because if I turn up the ISO and everything, it's going to blow out all the brights. But I would say that's about how the dark areas look. And then I've come over here. That's a little bright. That's about how the dark areas look on the Samsung. So if I back up, you can see how kind of gray and washed out the roof looks from the blooming versus over here. Again, it's not as dark. I would have to readjust the camera again. It's not that bright. It's somewhere in between here. Those are my two highest ISO stops. So this is the problem with trying to use this camera, but I think you get the point of what I'm trying to say here. Just, yeah, the Samsung is definitely brighter in bright scenes, but when it comes to little tiny highlights, it doesn't get as bright, and it's not as defined as OLED. Now we're in a much brighter scene, and I have to adjust the ISO again. There we go. And here again, you can see that the Samsung's clearly brighter, but the LG is not far behind. Alright, now here's a bit brighter of a scene. Some skin tones. Alright, now here is a scene from Underground 6 on Netflix. It's a lot of fast motion. All the motion settings are disabled. Alright, now the Man in High Castle, also on Amazon Prime, HDR10 Plus, with local dimming on high on the Samsung on the right. Dynamic tone mapping off and HDR10 on the LG on the left. Now one thing I do want to point out is the camera picks up more blue from OLED that's not there. It is very, very slightly different coloring in person than the Samsung, but it is not this blue and green that the camera is showing. Alright, now this is the day after tomorrow in SDR, ISF Expert Bright on the LG, and SDR Movie Mode with local dimming on low on the Samsung, and the brightness is only on 12 to get similar brightness of the LG. Alright, now for the Spears and Munzel disc. So what I want to do here is I can't do the Dolby Vision through the splitter, and I can't do it on the Samsung TV. And I can't do HDR10 Plus through the splitter because the LG TV, and this 4K Blu-ray player doesn't support HDR10 Plus. So my options are I can run it in SDR, or I can run it in HDR 1000, which both of them can easily do, or I can set it to HDR 2000, which will showcase the brightness of the Samsung, and then the LG will have to tone map that. So that's what I'm going to do, just so it doesn't handicap the Samsung in any way. And I'm going to be trying to constantly adjust the camera so that it will keep up with the different scenes as far as brightness and dark areas. So like that's too bloomy, so I gotta drop it down. And I would say so far that is pretty representative of what I'm seeing. As far as the extra brightness on the Samsung, yeah, the Samsung is definitely super bright right there. Might need to adjust a little bit here. The Samsung also seems a little warmer. Again, these are not calibrated, so the Samsung is going to be a little bit closer to 6500K out of the box. However, the Samsung does have worse color accuracy, especially when it comes to blue. So you can see the lacking in the depth for blue with the Samsung, but it does have more cyan and teal. See, if I go too high on the ISO, it blows it out. So I'm going to try and keep it here through this whole thing, and I'll just let you know if shadow areas are not showing. Like right there, I can see the trees on the LG, but the camera's not picking it up. Again, the little dark areas between the trees, the camera's making look a lot darker on the LG, but I can actually see it in person. And then here, both TVs are just slightly brighter, so let me adjust a little more. Let's try that. Oh yeah, you definitely see these dark scenes. It's gonna blow out. It's gonna blow out the highlights if I turn the ISO up too much. But if I put it down, then you can't see the shadows. This is why I prefer to shoot one TV at a time and then just crop them down and edit them together afterwards. That way I can have the camera adjusted properly, or at least as close as possible to each TV individually, instead of trying to show them both with their strengths and weaknesses at the same time. This is why side-by-sides really aren't that representative of what you're going to see in person. See, scenes like this, you don't really see blooming on the Samsung, but other scenes you do. Which is quite surprising because this is typically, like right there at the top of that feather on the left side, there was an obvious blooming with the Samsung, where it was nice and deep and black on the LG. The yellows look better on the LG. A little more washed out on the Samsung. Again, sorry for the movement. It's difficult to try and look at the TVs, adjust the camera, and hold the camera all at the same time. This is why I don't really do too many side-by-sides in this fashion anymore. But the body for that butterfly right there is definitely brighter, sticks out more on the Samsung. The reds look a lot better on the LG here and here. Those roses just have much more depth to them. The green looks good too. And then here, the hottest parts of those sparks, they actually look a little brighter on the LG. Just another example of the Samsung struggling to try and get bright while keeping the darks dark and not having a lot of blooming. Like right here, the white around the building in the front is clearly brighter on the LG. Here, the trees are hard to see on the LG. Couldn't get to the camera fast enough. See, that's going to blow out the sky to try and show shadows, so I'm just going to ignore that. It's like that's about as bright as they are in person, but I don't want it to make blooming look worse on the Samsung. And that Samsung just puts out so much brightness in this dark room. That's one thing. If you are in a dark room like this, it becomes questionable if you are gonna like that much brightness. Because some scenes, it is eye fatiguing. Definitely get bias lighting if you go with a QN90A for a dark room. Alright, now I'm gonna skip on to some motion tests. Alright, now with both TVs, all the motion stuff is turned off. Alright, now with the de-blur and de-judder set to 3 each on both TVs. They actually look extremely similar in motion to me. I'm gonna replay that. Try to focus on the lights that are on the walls. Yeah, I'd say the motion's pretty much the same. I see no difference. Alright, little SDR anime. It's 720p being upscaled. See, for the most part in movies, the Samsung can get those blacks looking really good. It's only in game mode that the local dimming seems to struggle and has more blooming. And then some HDR content also. I mean, there's always some blooming, but it's most noticeable in game mode. And then when we come to something that looks like this, they're pretty much indistinguishable from each other. So there are pluses and minuses to the Samsung. The LG, I think, is more consistent overall. But let me know what you think. I hope this helps you guys out. Thanks for watching. Have a good one. Catch the next one.